they had, let's say they're in the middle, and they've got, let's say, 10 or 12 money managers. These are guys that all have, they're managing funds, okay? This guy's sole responsibility was to shift money from here to here to here to each manager based on chart patterns of their equity curves. In other words, they would chart the equity of these particular traders just like price patterns in the market to determine their potential for inordinately large drawdowns because of self-sabotaging beliefs. That's how sophisticated the market has become. That's how relevant these issues are. So that you can actually chart your equity, and then you start to go like this. Oh, well, and then do another one like that. Well, something's happening here, okay? I mean, it was really kind of amazing to me when I was working with floor traders especially. I mean, this one guy, this pops into my brain just as we're talking about this. I mean, he came in for a consultation, and he had his worst day in his life ever. Worst trading day, lost more money than what he's ever lost in his life. And I said, well, and it's like normally, almost virtually in every case, something catastrophic's happening in that person's life. But what was always amazing to me is how much of a disconnect that the person would have between the catastrophic event in their life and what they ended up doing as a trader in the market. And I said, well, what's going on? And I just said, well, what's going on? And he's kind of, well, yeah, my wife and I had this really bad argument last night, and when I left for the exchange this morning, he slapped his kids around and he kicked his dog, and it's like, and then he came in and had his worst day and didn't make the connection between what happened at home and what he did on the floor. I mean, he might have felt completely justified with the argument that he had with his wife in slapping his kid around and kicking the dog, but that's what's going on consciously. But let's say subconsciously, everyone has, let's say if a person's relatively normal, not a psychopath, they've got some sense of fairness, and he feels guilty about what he did, and he took that guilt out in the way he traded that day. The market is not a good arena to be doing this, by the way. Okay, this is not a good area to be working these kind of emotional issues out. Go ahead. We need the microphone. You want me to put it right here, and I'll just hand it to him?
My next question would be the market also changes. The patterns or your edge may change in relation to the market. To distinguish between your own troubled state, let's say, and market behavior, I can see that maybe one of these fellows here in the pie there might be using a system that is not as valid as it used to be when the market changes. How would you know, if you were the guy in the center, whether he was just having a bad stay with whatever's going on in his personal life versus a change in his system in relation to the market?
Another good question. You wouldn't know immediately, but upon investigation you could find out. In other words, by just talking to the guy, or what you do is that see what you do is you trade in sample sizes too. In other words, when you have a particular methodology that has a defined criteria for when you get into a trade, what you do is you trade in a limited sample size, so that if you trade in 25 trade sample sizes, or like 20 or whatever, what you do is you analyze your results at the end of a sample size, and if your results are satisfying, then what you do is you take another sample size. If the results are not satisfying, then because you knew exactly what you did and under what circumstances you did it, you limited your variables, what you do is then you can go back and tweak your variables to see if you can improve your results. Because what's your name? Tom. Because what Tom was really bringing up is the fact that you're right, because we're taking a limited set of variables, a mathematical formula, that's being applied to a dynamic event. And that dynamic event are traders who are acting on their own behalf, creating price movement, and they create patterns that were doing the same thing over and over again, but you've got new people coming in with new ideas and old people leaving, and as a result, these patterns can change over time, diminishing the results of a particular edge. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your sample size is large enough to adequately test that edge, but small enough so that if the edge is diminishing in its effectiveness, you're not losing an inordinate amount of money before you find that out. Does that answer your question? So that's how they find out. Okay. Besides that, there's software available that'll even tell you now. There's software available that'll track your edges or to track your equity in a way that can indicate whether or not you're ready to take a hit. I don't know the name of it, but because I just found out about it myself. So,
what are some other ways that you can address maybe a emotional problem you might be going through, or other things outside of the trading area besides stop trading?
Well, you say there are a number of techniques, a number of books available. There's counseling. I'm going to make a recommendation of a particular book later on. When we get into a little bit more detail, but it depends on the effect that it has on your trading. I mean, you don't necessarily have to stop trading, but you have to make an objective assessment as to your state of mind. In other words, you can actually say to yourself, am I in the best state of mind to be trading today? And, and the kind of answer that you get back from yourself, if it's relatively objective, it's like if you're really not in the best state of mind because of things that are going on in your life and some troubling aspects that you haven't reconciled, but you don't want to stop trading, well, at least you're aware of it. Another technique would be by keeping journals, because most really good traders keep pretty extensive journals about what they're doing and what they're thinking while they're doing it. And then you make this assessment so that at least if you don't want to stop trading, you still want to put whatever edges on you have for that day, you scale back. In other words, if your maximum position size is, let's say, 5,000 shares, you're not in the best state of mind, maybe you only want to trade 1,000. Maybe you only want to trade 500. In other words, to take these things into consideration. And you'd be surprised by just being aware of it and taking into consideration, a lot of times these things will reconcile themselves. Does that help you?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay.